So okay, let's continue. So we have created, we have looked at creating a spline using created points like this. Okay, let's look at other options. Do we have another option? So we have an options exactly like in creating spline in sketch mode. So I guess we shouldn't stop here and switch into another comments. So I'm gonna delete all these points and spline, create spline. So select them and push delete button. So if I open another buttons under this spline, I have here the next command is creating helix. So let's try to look at this. So first of all, here this helix curve definition asking me to select a point. So I don't have any point here. So I right click on node selection next to starting point and create a point. So on a helix, I want to select as a first point this one, the point by coordinates. Let's say 50 by x, 0 by y, and 0 by z, something like this. And click on OK. So the point is created, and now I should select an axis, uh, around which I'm gonna draw something like this, So definitely my axis is gonna be Z axis. So I right click on node selection here next to axis and select Z axis, which is this one. Okay, so and as you can see here now, I can see creating helix with these options, which are options by default like this. So the important ones here are a pitch and a height. Let's look at the pitch. So what is pitch? Pitch is a distance between this first point and the next step of my helix. So this distance is 1 millimeter, which is defined here. So the height is the overall height of my helix, which is the distance between the first point and the last point, this one. So I'm gonna I can change these options. Let's say I want the height of helix is gonna be about 100 millimeters, something like this. Okay, as you can see, there are a lot of revolutions. They should be 100 here because the height of helix is 100 and pitch is 1, and if I divide 100 by 1, I can it will be the number of revolutions. So now I'm gonna change the pitch here. Let's define it as 20 maybe. Okay, and click on preview. So I see. So as you can see here, uh, the distance between this first point and the next step of helix is changed. Okay, so and that here a distance between each step is 20 millimeters in my case, in this case. Okay, so another option of helix definition is orientation. So in this case, it is rotated counterclockwise. I want I can change this orientation into clockwise. So as you can see here, the orientation is changed now. So the next maybe important point is starting angle. So now if I look at my element on my window from front like this, I can see here so that uh, my helix is absolutely vertical. If I create a line here, vertical lines here, they are parallel and they are absolutely vertical like this. I can define here starting angle. So let's define it as maybe 5 degrees and click on preview. Okay. I don't see anything. Maybe okay. Let's define it as 20 degrees, something like this. Okay. This starting angle is this one. Okay. Here, as you can see here. So my starting point here and helix is started after 20 degrees. Okay. And there is another option. I'm gonna change it into 0 once again, and change its orientation as counterclockwise again. And there is another option is taper angle, which is this one. Okay. And if I change it into maybe 5, or let's make it 20 degrees and click on preview. Okay. And as you can see here, I'm creating something like a cone, but a cone with a 20 degrees between the vertical and the side of the cone, something like this. But here I think 5 or 10 degrees is enough to be able to see the difference between when I choose this 10 degrees. Okay. So if I click on this reverse direction, probably you already understand my helix will be on the other side, will be created on the other side of this XY plane. Let's try it. Reverse direction, and it is created on the other side of XY plane. Okay, so I'm gonna click on reverse direction once again, and we are gonna look at another options. Let's try to look at this button, which is name it low. Okay, if I click on this low, I have here an options of constant and S type. Okay, the constant low option is this one, and if I change this constant into S type and click on close, the options of pitch and height are deactivated. Instead, the options of revolutions is activated, something like this. So here let's make the start value of pitch is let's say 2 millimeters, and the end value is gonna be, let's say, 20 millimeters like this, and click on close. So okay, so here only one revolutions is defined. I'm gonna change it into maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10, like this. However, revolutions I define here, the first pitch is gonna be 2 millimeters. Okay, the last pitch is gonna be 20 millimeters, like in my low here, 2 millimeters and 20 millimeters. Okay, now in my case the number of revolutions are 5. Let's change it into 10, like this. Okay, once again, the first pitch is 2 millimeters, and the last one is 20. Sorry, 20. Okay, so let's click on preview. Let's click on OK. So I have some kind of something, some helix, something like this. And if I double click on this helix on my workspace, or double click on the helix here on part body on a trio specification, I can reopen helix curve definition once again. And there is another option, which is profile. Instead of selecting this taper angle, I can select a profile here. If I click on profile, I should select here a profile. So unfortunately, I don't have a profile created here. I just click on cancel, and I'm gonna create a profile on, let's say, which is gonna be a sketch, on this plane, which is ZX plane. Okay, so as you can see here there is a point, starting point of my helix. Okay, for creating profile, I'm gonna use a spline, something like this, maybe like okay, something like this. Okay, so this point, the first point, should be a coincidence to this point. In other case, this option uh, is not gonna work. Let's try it here. So I have here a profile, this one, sketch 4, and I have here uh, a helix. But if I want to change something in helix curve definition, this sketch should be created before helix 1. Okay, so how I can do this? I just click helix 1, drag and drop it after sketch or on sketch, something like this. Now my sketch 4 is created before helix 1. So let's try to use in helix definition a profile. Okay, if I try to select created sketch 4, there is a error message, which says that these 2 points should be coincidence. Okay, and if I double click on sketch 4, as you can see, since this sketch 4 is created before helix, I cannot see helix here. Okay, so I just create a constraint between y-axis and this point to place it on exactly the starting point of my helix. So this distance should be 50. As you probably remember, when we started to uh, create a helix, we have created a point, and it is coordinate by x was 50 millimeters. Okay, this 50 millimeters also uh, created here as a length or distance coincidence between this point and y axis. Okay, I'm gonna just exit sketch workbench and try to use profile to create this helix once again. Okay, so select profile here, instead of taper angle, and I'm gonna select this sketch, created sketch, and click on OK. And as you can see here, I have a really weird curve or weird uh, helix along this spline. Okay. uh, okay, let's change low options. I'm gonna select back this constant instead of S type, and here I'm gonna define height as 100 like this, and the pitch is changed into 5 like this. Okay, and click on OK. And in this case, you can see it is shape more better. Okay, so uh, this is all about helix. Let's switch into another button, which is this one, spiral. So I just delete these two things, which is helix and sketch 4, and start to look at on this button. So let's try to click this one. Okay, once again, here I have here a spiral curve definition window, which is this one. And first it asks me to define a support. It should be a plane, some plane. In my case, I have only 3 base planes here. Let's select one of them. I'm gonna create this object on XY plane. Okay. So, and the next, it is asking me to create or to define a point next to no on no selection next to center point. I'm gonna right click and select create a point option because I don't have any point created here. So let's define a point's coordinates as 0, 0, 0 like this. Okay, and click on OK. And here on reference direction, which is next option, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna select maybe X or maybe Y directions, or any direction which should be placed on XY plane. Okay, because this object is planar object. So I right click and select one of X or Y component. Let's try to start from X component. Okay, something like this. Okay, so I have created here something. It is interesting. So, and as you can see here, there is an option of revolution. We are gonna look at the start radius a bit later. So let's look at these revolutions. And okay, and here I have end radius. So let's make these revolutions 2 or maybe 3. Okay, as you can see here, end radius in this case is the distance between first point, which is this point 10 in my case, and which is placed on origin here, and the last point of this object. This is the radius, which this is the end radius. Okay, I can select, I can change the start radius also. Okay, let's make it maybe 2 or maybe 3 millimeters even, like this, and click on preview. So there is a distance here, which is this one, 3 millimeter between starting point and the origin The origin is this one. Okay, and click on OK. So if we try to define measure the distance between these two, using this tool, which is measure between, okay, this point and this point, as you can see, the distance between them is 7 millimeters, okay, because here the distance between the starting point and the origin is 3 millimeters, okay. So I just cancel this measuring and double click once again, double click on spiral 1. So there is an option, another option here is end angle. I can change it, okay. Let's make it maybe minus maybe 30 degrees, okay. Click on preview, click on OK, and as you can see here, if I look at my screen from top like this, okay, and create a line uh, between the origin and starting point, and between the origin and ending point, this degree is going to be 30 degrees, okay. So I think this is all about this object. I'm gonna just select them on my 3O specification and delete it, and switch onto next one, which is this one, spline. So this is another option of creating a spline. So here on the first one, the spline is created using points, and on this one the spline is created using planes, okay. So let's create first planes. So let's assume I have a first plane here, which is XY plane, okay, and I'm gonna create another plane. Let's click on this plane of creating a plane button here, and I'm gonna create a plane which is angle normal to plane, like this, and as a reference plane I'm gonna select XY, and as a rotation axis I'm gonna select, let's say, x-axis, like this, okay, and the angle is going to be 45 degrees, something like this, or even minus 45 degrees, minus 45. So I have created a plane here, but I want to move this plane somewhere here on the space. So that means the center of the plane should be somewhere here. So I'm going to create another plane. So I'm gonna choose the option or parallel through point here, okay. So as a reference plane, this one, newly created plane 1, is already selected, and I'm gonna just should define a point. I don't have any point. I'm gonna right click on no selection next to point here and select create a point, okay. And new points coordinates will be something like maybe 20 by Z coordinates. It is a lot, but it's okay. And maybe 5 millimeters by Y coordinates, something like this. And I'm gonna click on OK. Okay, something like this maybe. So, and I'm gonna create plane, another plane. Okay, try to understand. I'm gonna creating this plane just to be able to understand, okay. uh, so I'm gonna create another plane parallel to this one, which is ZX plane, using once again an option of creating parallel through point. Okay, as a reference plane, I'm going to select this one, ZX plane, and I'm going to define another point. Right click on node selection next to point here and select create a point, and I'm going to change, let's say, y coordinates of this into maybe 50 millimeters. Click on preview, and my point is going to be created somewhere here. It's a lot. I'm going to change it into 35 maybe. That should be enough, and click on OK. So as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3 more planes are created, and I'm gonna use to create a spline using this method, this one. Okay, first of all, XY plane, which is this one, which is already selected one, and uh, uh, and here it is XY plane is listed on this on here. Okay, so the second plane is gonna be this one, plane 2. Let's say this one. Okay, and the third plane is gonna be this one. Okay, and I just click on OK. So as you can see here, the spline is created. It it may look like a bit weird. Uh, it may look like this spline does not cross these planes, but in reality, this spline crosses these planes, this plane and this plane on on 90 degrees. Here there is an angle here 90 degrees, and also here 90 degrees, and if I continue this plane over here, and this angle is also 90 degrees. Okay, I hope you understand the difference between between this one and this one. Okay, I just once again select all these created things on my Trio specification and delete them. Okay, so let's look at another one, which is contour. So what does it mean? So to be able to understand, I'm going to create a path on part design. So I just click on start and select part design, and somewhere maybe on YZ plane I'm going to create a sketch, and a sketch profile is going to be something like this. I use spline to have some surface, and close the contour, something maybe like this. Okay, I'm not going to use all any constraint because it's just to show you how to use these tools. So I'm going to create a pad, maybe 50 millimeters to both sides, something like it, maybe even more, maybe 150 millimeters, something like this. Okay, and click on OK, and back to generative shape design mode, like this. Okay, so what does this icon gives to us? If I select this contour, it is asking me first of all to select a surface. As a surface, I'm going to select this one, the top surface of my created pad. Okay, and now I should select here a curves which belong to my surface, to this surface. So I just select the edges of my pad, 1, 2, 3, and 4, like this. Okay, and click on OK. Okay, so do you see these white lines here? These are a curves. So in order to be able to understand more and to understand it, I'm gonna do it like this. I just delete this contour and I'm gonna insert a geometrical set, which is this one. I can open here, I can go insert and click on geometrical set, and here I'm gonna I should um, type a name of geometrical set. Let's say it's gonna be just geometrical set, like this. Okay, and click on OK. So I have created here geometrical set, and inside this geometrical set I'm gonna create a contour, which is this one. Select these edges of my first of all I should select the surface and select edges of my 3D element. Okay, and click on OK. So if I hide this pad 1 by right clicking on this, I can see the wire frame which is contour here. Okay,